The first time Elias Trent set foot on Zithera, he was overwhelmed. The planet stretched out like a living tapestry of colors, its cities floating above vast oceans, and its skies painted in streaks of orange and violet by the twin suns. For most humans, Zithera was a distant legend, a place of grandeur and strict rules, where outsiders were either honored for their rare contributions or dismissed as irrelevant. Elias had never thought he would belong to that world, let alone marry its princess. Princess Lyra was unlike anyone he had ever met. She carried herself with a confidence born of both wisdom and compassion, a combination rare even among royalty. He had first met her during a peacekeeping mission between the human colonies and Zitheran outposts. The mission had been dangerous, filled with hostile factions and political tension, yet Lyra had worked alongside him with determination and intelligence that matched his own. Together, they had faced ambushes in asteroid belts, navigated treacherous political negotiations, and survived attacks from pirates and rival aliens alike. It had been during that mission that their mutual respect had grown into a quiet, unspoken bond. Now, standing together in the grand palace of Zithera, that bond was about to be tested in a way neither of them had anticipated. The palace itself was a marvel of alien architecture. Towering spires rose from platforms of shimmering crystal, suspended by anti-gravity fields. Light bent through translucent surfaces in a way that made the entire structure glow from within. Elias had never seen anything so beautiful, yet there was an edge to it, a sense of power and authority that reminded him he was still very much an outsider here. The Queen, Vera, was waiting for him in her private chamber. She was tall, with eyes that seemed to see through walls, through intentions, through lies. Her voice carried the authority of centuries, a calm yet unyielding tone that left no room for argument. As Elias stepped forward, he felt the weight of tradition pressing down upon him. He knew that Queen Vera had rules for everything, rules that had kept her planet stable for generations. And now she expected him to bow, to submit, to accept her decree without question. "Elias Trent," the Queen said, her voice echoing softly through the chamber, "you stand here not just as a guest, but as the husband of my daughter. You are an outsider. You have proven some worth, yet it is not enough. You must divorce her." Elias blinked, trying to absorb the words. Divorce? After everything they had faced together, after everything they had endured, he shook his head slowly, keeping his voice steady. "Your Majesty, with respect, I cannot." Queen Vera's gaze sharpened. She leaned slightly forward, her posture demanding attention. "You misunderstand me. This is not a request. It is an order. My daughter is royalty. She cannot belong to a human. Your kind is fragile, limited, unworthy of her station." Elias felt a twinge of anger, but he forced it down. He knew that showing emotion here could be dangerous. Every word, every gesture was scrutinized. "I have seen more of life, more of danger, more of courage than most could imagine. I have saved her life, and she has saved mine. That proves worth, does it not?" The Queen's expression remained unreadable. She studied him, her eyes piercing, trying to discern whether this human truly understood the magnitude of her command. She could see the determination in his posture, the quiet confidence in his gaze, and yet she remained skeptical. To her, humans were unpredictable, unreliable, and yet there was something in him that defied her expectations. Lyra stepped forward. Her presence was commanding yet warm, a balance that Elias admired deeply. "Mother," she said, her voice clear and unwavering, "I have made my choice. I will not divorce him. He is my partner not because of his species, but because of his heart, his courage, and his loyalty. These are the qualities I value most." Queen Vera's eyes flicked to her daughter, a mixture of surprise and frustration crossing her face. "Do you not see, Lyra? This is not merely about your feelings. It is about the future of our people. Your union with a human, someone who has no place in our history, could weaken your position, invite criticism, and destabilize our alliances." Lyra's response was steady. "I understand the risks, Mother, but I trust Elias. I have seen his decisions, his courage, and his honor. He is human, yes, but he is more than that. He embodies the best of humanity, the qualities that your advisors and our people need to see." The chamber was silent for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Elias could feel the tension tightening around him. Queen Vera had faced rebellions, invasions, and betrayals in her long reign, yet she had never faced a challenge like this. A challenge from love itself, from the unbreakable bond between a human and her daughter. "You speak with conviction," the queen said finally, her tone softer but still firm. And yet, conviction alone is not enough to secure peace or stability. You must prove your worth, human, not to me but to the people who watch and wait for a sign. They will test you. They will doubt you, and if you fail, her gaze darkened slightly, a warning in the shadow of her eyes. The consequences could be severe. Elias nodded, understanding the implication. He did not flinch. I will face every challenge. I will prove not just to you, but to everyone that humanity is capable of courage, wisdom, and honor. Queen Vera studied him in silence, then leaned back slightly. Very well, you will have your chance, but know this, the path ahead is perilous. Not all will welcome your presence, and not all will respect your claims. Your loyalty, your decisions, and your heart will be tested in ways you cannot yet imagine. Lyra reached out and took Elias' hand, her grip firm and reassuring. We will face it together, she said. Whatever comes, we face it together. The queen's eyes softened just slightly, a subtle acknowledgement of the bond between her daughter and the human who had proven himself through countless trials. Yet, Elias knew better than to believe that the battle was over. This was only the beginning. The queen's decree had not been lifted, only postponed. And the court, full of advisors, nobles, and spies, would watch their every move, waiting for the first sign of weakness. Over the next several days, Elias was introduced to the subtle and complex world of Zitharan politics. He learned the intricate hierarchies, the delicate balance of power between noble families, and the unspoken rules that govern the court. Every conversation, every gesture, every decision was analyzed for hidden meanings. Even a simple compliment or a polite refusal could be twisted into a sign of disrespect. Elias approached these challenges as he had approached every obstacle in his life, with careful observation, logic, and adaptability. He found allies among some of the more progressive members of the court, those who admired his courage and his ability to think clearly under pressure. They quietly provided guidance, teaching him the nuances of Zitharan etiquette, the unspoken rules of diplomacy, and the subtle ways in which a human could earn respect in an alien world. Lyra was his constant companion, her presence a source of comfort and strength. She guided him through the palace, explained the histories behind the rituals, and shared stories of the queen's reign. Her insight helped him navigate the treacherous waters of court politics, and her unwavering belief in him bolstered his own confidence. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city, Elias and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The air was fragrant with alien blossoms, and the fountains shimmered with water that reflected the colors of the sky. Do you ever worry, Elias? Lyra asked, her voice soft but thoughtful. He considered her question. Of course, this court, this world, it is not forgiving. One wrong step, one misjudged word, and everything could collapse, but I am willing to face that risk. Not for glory, not for recognition, but for you, for us. Lyra smiled, a warmth in her eyes that reminded him of why he had fought so hard to be here. Then we will face it together. Whatever comes, whatever challenges, we face it together. Their moment of quiet reassurance was interrupted by a sudden commotion near the palace gates. Alarms sounded, and guards rushed past them, their weapons raised. Elias and Lyra exchanged a glance, the tension of the court replaced by the immediate danger of the unknown. Without hesitation, Elias moved toward the source of the disturbance, Lyra at his side. As they approached, they saw a group of heavily armored figures attempting to breach the palace perimeter. The attackers were not ordinary criminals. They moved with precision and coordination that suggested military training, likely mercenaries hired by rival factions who opposed the union of a human and a Zitharan princess. Elias' heart raced, but his mind remained sharp. He directed the guards, positioning them strategically to block the intruders while minimizing risk to bystanders. Lyra used her own training to create distractions, her agility and speed allowing her to outmaneuver several of the attackers. Together, human and princess coordinated their defense, turning what could have been a chaotic ambush into a controlled counteraction. By the time Queen Vera arrived, escorted by her elite guards, the threat had been neutralized. The attackers were captured and their weapons disarmed. Elias stood beside Lyra, both of them unscathed, their combined efforts having protected the palace and its inhabitants. The queen studied Elias, her expression unreadable. Then, for the first time since their confrontation, she spoke with a tone of reluctant acknowledgement. You have proven capable in action, human. Yet remember, this is only the beginning. The court will watch you. The people will test you. And I will be watching most closely of all. Elias nodded, understanding that the queen's eyes were both a challenge and a warning. He met Lyra's gaze, drawing strength from her unwavering confidence. Together, they had faced the queen's decree and emerged stronger, but the trials ahead were far from over. As the night settled over Zithra, Elias felt a sense of determination unlike anything he had known before. He was a human in an alien world, standing beside a princess who believed in him. The queen had issued her command, but Elias understood this. No decree, no order, no tradition could break the bond they had forged. And as long as he had courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit within him, he would not be forced to let go. The first chapter of their journey was over, but the story of Elias, Lyra, and the challenge of royal authority had only just begun. The morning after the ambush, the palace buzzed with tension. Guards patrolled the halls with renewed vigilance, whispering reports about the mercenaries who had tried to breach the gates. Court members moved cautiously, their eyes occasionally flicking toward Elias Trent as though testing him. Some openly doubted him, others watched silently, trying to read his intentions. Elias knew that this was only the beginning. Queen Vera had warned him that the people would test him. This was the test of perception and politics, just as much as the test of courage and action. He could no longer rely solely on his instincts. He had to understand Zithra itself, the culture, the expectations, and the subtle ways of power. Lyra was already awake and waiting for him in the palace gardens. The air smelled of alien blossoms, their colors muted by the early light. "You slept poorly?" she asked softly, noticing the slight weariness in his expression. Elias shook his head. "The night was long. The palace may be safe for now, but this court, they are watching, analyzing, waiting for mistakes. And I cannot make mistakes, not now, not ever." Lyra smiled, placing a hand on his arm. "You will not fail. Remember, it is not just your skill that matters, it is your humanity. You are different from them, yes, but that difference is what makes you strong. That is what they need to see." He nodded slowly. Her words were comforting, but Elias knew she was right. Humans were not physically superior to Zitharans, nor were they trained in the centuries of combat protocol that the palace elite knew by heart. Yet humans had something else: adaptability, creativity, the ability to think in ways the predictable never could. That unpredictability, combined with courage and moral clarity, had saved them countless times before. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ambassador Thalene, one of the Queen's advisors. The ambassador's expression was neutral, but his piercing gaze suggested calculation. "Elias Trent," he said, inclining his head slightly. "The Queen wishes to see you immediately. She has arranged a special assignment, one that will prove your worth not only to her but to the court and the people." Elias followed Thalene without hesitation. He had expected as much. The Queen's decree had not been withdrawn. If anything, it had become more pressing. This assignment was a test, and he would have to succeed to secure his place beside Lyra. The Queen's chamber was quiet when he entered. Queen Vera sat at a polished table, flanked by two holographic displays showing star maps of Zithra's outer colonies. "A fleet has been detected near the outer settlements," she said, her tone calm but commanding. "They move with precision, coordinating attacks on our human colonies. It appears they are testing us, probing for weaknesses. Your assignment is to lead a team to confront this threat. Succeed, and you will demonstrate that humans are not only capable but essential to our survival." Elias studied the star maps. The fleet was unlike anything he had faced before. Their ships moved silently, using tactics that were alien in every sense. Yet he could see patterns, weak points, and opportunities for clever maneuvers. His human intuition allowed him to analyze situations quickly, seeing options that might elude Zitharan commanders bound by centuries of tradition. "I understand," he said firmly. "I will take the mission. I will not fail." Lyra, who had accompanied him, placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will face it together. You will not be alone, Elias. I will assist where I can, and the advisors who trust you will provide support." The Queen regarded them both with a steady gaze. "Remember, failure is not an option. The people will judge every action, every decision. Do not disappoint me, Elias Trent. Your life and perhaps your future with my daughter depends on this mission." The preparation for departure was swift. Elias selected a team that included human officers from the colonies, along with select Zitharan soldiers who had quietly expressed trust in him. The team trained for several hours, running through simulated maneuvers and contingency plans. Elias emphasized flexibility and creativity, ensuring that they could adapt to any situation. Unlike the traditional Zitharan approach, which relied on strict protocols and formation tactics, Elias encouraged initiative and rapid problem-solving. As they boarded the fleet, the twin suns of Zithara rose higher, illuminating the sprawling city beneath them. Elias looked out at the horizon, feeling a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The stakes were higher than anything he had faced before. This was not merely about survival. It was about proving that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with an alien civilization, not as inferiors but as equals. The journey to the outer colonies was tense. Sensors detected multiple ships moving in formation, their technology advanced and unfamiliar. The enemy fleet had clearly studied Zitharan tactics and was adapting in real time. Yet Elias saw patterns others might have missed. "They are aggressive but predictable if we move first," he said. "We can use their confidence against them, prepare for evasive maneuvers, stick to formation but expect the unexpected." The first engagement came near the asteroid belt surrounding the colony of Hestara 4. The enemy fleet attempted to block the human Zitharan convoy, firing disruptor beams that could disable ships instantly. Elias acted quickly, issuing commands to deploy decoy drones and move in irregular patterns. Human ingenuity, combined with Zitharan firepower, created a tactical advantage. Lyra coordinated from the command center, providing real-time adjustments to the fleet's movement. Her understanding of both human and Zitharan strategies allowed them to anticipate the enemy's attacks. Together, Elias and Lyra orchestrated a defense that was both daring and precise, protecting the colonies and neutralizing several enemy ships without unnecessary casualties. The battle raged for hours. Elias made split-second decisions, relying on both instinct and analysis. He ordered ships to flank the enemy while simultaneously deploying sensor jammers to confuse their targeting systems. The humans on his team acted with remarkable courage, following his lead even when facing overwhelming odds. Zitharan soldiers, initially skeptical, began to respect his approach, noting how his unpredictability gave them an edge over the enemy. At a critical moment, the enemy flagship attempted a full assault on the central colony. Elias realized that conventional tactics would fail. He devised a daring maneuver, using the gravity of a nearby asteroid to slingshot his smaller ships into a surprise attack position, catching the enemy off guard. The plan required precise timing and absolute trust from his crew. As the maneuver unfolded, Lyra monitored every detail, relaying adjustments to the fleet. The plan succeeded spectacularly. The enemy flagship was disabled, their command disrupted, and the remaining ships retreated. The outer colonies were safe, and Elias' leadership had proven decisive. Returning to Zithara, the fleet was greeted with cautious admiration. The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves, acknowledging the human's brilliance without openly praising him. Elias and Lyra were ushered into the Queen's presence, where she studied the reports and tactical data. "You have succeeded," she said finally, her tone measured but acknowledging the truth. "The colonies are secure and the enemy has retreated. Yet understand this, your success does not erase the concerns of tradition, nor does it remove the scrutiny you will face. Humans are still outsiders, but you have shown qualities that cannot be ignored: courage, intelligence, and decisiveness. These are valuable traits even to my people." Elias bowed, his expression calm but proud. "I will continue to prove my worth, your majesty, not for recognition, but for the safety of your people and for Lyra." Lyra stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on his. "Mother, you see what I have always known. Elias is not just human. He is honorable, courageous, and wise. His actions today have protected countless lives. That is worth more than any tradition." The Queen's eyes softened slightly. She had spent centuries guarding her people and her daughter, yet she could not deny the results. Elias' actions had saved lives, preserved colonies, and demonstrated that humans could stand as equals in moments of crisis. The success of the mission shifted the dynamics within the palace subtly. Advisors who had been skeptical began to approach Elias with questions, seeking insight into his tactics and reasoning. Some nobles, still hesitant, observed him with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. The queen, for the first time, allowed herself a small measure of respect, though she remained vigilant, aware that one misstep could undo all progress. Elias and Lyra returned to their private quarters, exhausted but elated. The mission had been dangerous, testing every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of trust between them. Yet they had succeeded, proving not only their abilities but also the strength of their partnership. Lyra looked at Elias, her eyes shining with admiration and love. "You have done more than anyone could have expected," she said. "Not just today, but in every choice you have made since we met. You have shown that humanity is capable of greatness, even in a world that doubts us." Elias smiled faintly, feeling both relief and determination. "We have done this together. The test is not over. The court will continue to watch, and the Queen's decree still stands in the background. But today we have made our point, and we will continue to do so every day together." As night fell over Zithera, the palace lights reflected in the twin oceans below, casting shimmering patterns across the city. Elias and Lyra stood on the balcony, watching the stars, knowing that the future held more challenges, more tests of courage, and more opportunities to prove the value of humanity. Together, they were stronger than any obstacle, their bond unshakable, their resolve unwavering. The Queen's decree still hung over them, but for the first time, Elias felt that perhaps it was not insurmountable. Humanity had been tested and had proven its worth. And in the days to come, he would continue to demonstrate that courage, intelligence, and loyalty were not bound by species, but by the spirit within. The days following the successful mission to the outer colonies were a mixture of relief and tension. While the immediate danger had passed, the Palace of Zithera remained a web of politics, scrutiny, and subtle challenges. Queen Vera's decree still hung over Elias Trent like a shadow, reminding him that nothing could be taken for granted, no victory permanent until it had been acknowledged by those who judged him. Despite the pressure, Elias and Lyra continued to work together, growing stronger as a team. Lyra used her influence among the court to build allies, quietly pointing out Elias' accomplishments, while Elias continued to refine his strategies, training both humans and Zitherans to work in harmony. Every day, every decision, every act was observed, debated, and interpreted in countless ways by the palace watchers. It was exhausting, yet Elias found comfort in the simple truth that he and Lyra were united in purpose. One morning, as twin suns rose over the capital city, the Queen summoned them both to a private council. The chamber was filled with advisors, military leaders, and nobles, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and thinly veiled hostility. The air was tense. Every eye in the room seemed to weigh Elias and Lyra as if their very presence was a challenge to centuries of tradition. Queen Vera began with a measured tone. "Elias Trent," she said, her eyes scanning the room before settling on him, "you have proven capable in combat, strategic planning, and the protection of our colonies. Yet courage alone does not secure the trust of a people, nor does it ensure stability. You must face the ultimate test, a matter of diplomacy, of moral judgment, and of human judgment under pressure. Today, the Council will present a challenge that will determine whether your union with my daughter is truly sustainable." Elias felt the familiar surge of determination. This was no longer a matter of defending colonies or outmaneuvering enemy ships. This was a test of his character, his intellect, and his ability to lead not just in battle, but in the delicate realm of politics and ethics. He met the Queen's gaze without flinching, acknowledging both the gravity of the situation and his resolve to face it head-on. Lyra stepped forward, her hand brushing against Elias' arm. "We are ready, Mother," she said firmly, her voice echoing with quiet authority. "Elias has shown what humans can achieve. I trust him to face whatever challenge the Council presents." The first challenge came swiftly. A dispute had arisen in one of Zithera's central colonies, Viola Prime, between two influential families. Both claimed rights over valuable resources, and tensions threatened to erupt into violence. The Council wanted a solution that preserved peace while ensuring fairness, and they believed that Elias' perspective as a human could offer an unconventional approach. Elias studied the situation carefully. Unlike Zitherans, who relied heavily on hierarchical rules and precedent, humans approached problems with practicality, ethics, and negotiation. He called representatives of both families together, listening patiently to their grievances, understanding not only the facts but the emotions behind each claim. He noted patterns, inconsistencies, and opportunities for compromise that might not be obvious to those entrenched in tradition. After hours of discussion, Elias proposed a solution that satisfied both parties. Instead of simply awarding rights based on rank or inheritance, he suggested shared stewardship of the resources, with transparent systems for oversight and conflict resolution. It was a solution grounded in fairness, trust, and accountability, values humans had developed through centuries of cooperation and trial. The families initially resisted, hesitant to accept guidance from an outsider. Yet Elias' calm reasoning, combined with Lyra's support and the subtle endorsement of trusted advisors, won them over. By the end of the day, the dispute was resolved peacefully, and both parties publicly acknowledged the fairness of Elias' approach. Word of his success spread quickly through the court. Skeptics whispered among themselves, noting that the human had solved a problem that had baffled seasoned Zitharan negotiators. Even some of Queen Vera's staunchest critics began to view Elias with a mixture of respect and wariness. Yet the queen remained silent, observing carefully, weighing each outcome with the scrutiny of a ruler who had spent her life protecting her people. That night, Elias and Lyra returned to their private quarters. Lyra's eyes glowed with admiration. "You did it again," she said, her voice soft but full of awe. "You've shown not just courage but wisdom. You see things differently, and that difference makes all the difference." Elias smiled, though he was weary. "It's not just me," he said. "It's our partnership, our trust in each other. We navigate these challenges together. That is what makes it work." The following days brought further tests. Reports of unrest, logistical challenges in the colonies, and delicate negotiations with neighboring systems required Elias to apply every skill he had. He demonstrated adaptability, strategic thinking, and moral clarity in every situation. Humans were capable of mistakes, yes, but they were also capable of innovation and resilience in ways that Zitharans, bound by centuries of protocol, sometimes were not. As Elias faced each challenge, Lyra remained by his side, both as a guide to Zitharan culture and as a partner in action. Their unity became a model for others, showing that collaboration between humans and Zitharans could yield remarkable results. Slowly, the perception of outsiders began to shift, and whispers of admiration replaced some of the skepticism. Despite these successes, the queen remained a formidable presence. She summoned Elias once more, this time to discuss the greatest challenge yet. A diplomatic mission to a neighboring star system, the Korvax Confederation, which had threatened retaliation over disputed territory. The queen presented it as the final test, a mission that would require intelligence, empathy, and negotiation skills under extreme pressure. Success would not only secure peace, but would cement Elias' standing in the eyes of the court and perhaps finally sway the queen's opinion. Elias accepted without hesitation. He understood that failure was not merely personal. It could destabilize the region and jeopardize the fragile trust he and Lyra had worked to build. Lyra, ever supportive, prepared with him, analyzing the Korvax's political structure, customs, and likely responses. Together, they created a plan that balanced firmness with diplomacy, demonstrating both human creativity and strategic foresight. The journey to the Korvax system was tense. Elias faced challenges he had never encountered before: communication barriers, subtle manipulations, and tests of character from leaders who had little reason to trust an outsider. Yet he approached each obstacle with calm reasoning and adaptability. He listened carefully, assessed motivations, and proposed solutions that addressed both immediate concerns and long-term stability. Lyra's support was crucial. She translated subtle cues, explained cultural nuances, and advised Elias on the most persuasive approaches. Their partnership was seamless, blending human insight with Zitharan experience. By the time they returned to Zithara, the Korvax had agreed to terms that ensured peace and cooperation, a remarkable outcome given the initial tension. When they arrived at the palace, the council convened to review the results. Advisors, nobles, and observers filled the grand chamber, all waiting to see whether Elias had succeeded. The queen stood at the head of the table, her expression inscrutable. One by one, the advisors presented their assessments. Elia's strategies had preserved peace, prevented bloodshed, and fostered goodwill among the Korvax, outcomes that no Zitharan alone had been able to achieve. Murmurs of approval spread through the room. Even those who had doubted him now acknowledged his skill, intelligence, and judgment. Queen Vera remained silent for a long moment, her eyes locked on Elia's. Then slowly she spoke, her voice calm but imbued with authority. Elias Trent, you have faced challenges that would have tested the strongest of my people. You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and moral clarity in every task. You have protected our colonies, resolved disputes, and secured peace with neighboring systems. Most importantly, you have done so not as a conqueror, not as a manipulator, but as a human guided by integrity and wisdom. Elias bowed respectfully, his heart pounding. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only seek to serve and protect, and to stand beside Lyra in partnership, not only as her husband, but as an ally to your people. The Queen's gaze softened slightly. She regarded both Elias and Lyra, her eyes reflecting centuries of experience, pride, and caution. You have proven that humans can indeed be worthy of trust and responsibility, she said finally. The court will acknowledge this, though it may take time for all to accept. And as for my daughter, she paused, her voice gentle but firm. She may choose her partner not by tradition alone, but by the qualities that truly matter, courage, honor, and wisdom. You have shown these qualities, human. You may remain by her side. Lyra's eyes filled with relief and joy. She took Elias' hand, squeezing it tightly, a silent affirmation of their shared victory. The court erupted in murmurs, some approving, some hesitant, but all acknowledging that a human had earned his place in the heart of Zithara's royalty. That night, Elias and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, the twin suns setting in a blaze of gold and violet. The city below shimmered with lights, reflecting off the twin oceans, creating a tapestry of brilliance. For the first time, Elias allowed himself to feel the full weight of their accomplishments, not just in action, but in trust, partnership, and respect. Do you think it is over? Elias asked quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Lyra shook her head with a smile. The challenges will never truly end, but we have faced the greatest tests together, and we have proven ourselves. Whatever comes next, we face it side by side. Elias nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. Humanity had been tested and had emerged stronger, not through strength alone, but through courage, wisdom, and integrity. In a world that had doubted them, they had shown that humans could rise to any challenge, bridge divides, and inspire respect. The Queen's decree had been confronted, and while tradition remained, the human spirit had proven unbreakable. Elias and Lyra stood together, united not only by love but by a shared mission, to honor their people, protect the innocent, and show that true strength was not determined by species, but by heart and mind. As the stars rose over Zithara, Elias realized that this was only the beginning of their journey. Challenges would come, as they always did, but now he faced them not alone, and not merely as a human, but as a partner, a protector, and a force capable of standing alongside the greatest of alien civilizations. Together, he and Lyra were unstoppable.